Hi, I'm Gregg LeFevre, and this is the Compulsive Storyteller, a series of short personal stories where we explore the idea that truth can be stranger than fiction. This week is a mini episode featuring a short story, which we call a shortie. This one is entitled Sawed-Off Shotgun. Sawed-Off Shotgun. This is how the long chain of events began that took me to that bar on 2nd Avenue and the bartender threatening my life with a sawed-off shotgun. I was staying in an apartment with a roommate who was a friend of a friend. He had an apartment near 2nd Avenue, and I needed to find some place to live. It was a 2-bedroom in a building that was in tough shape. The buzzer didn't work, there were burned-out bulbs in some of the hallways, and the lock was iffy. Nonetheless, the rent was affordable, and I needed a place to stay. My roommate and I had nothing in common. I was an artist, and he worked for a repo company. Every time we had a conversation, I found myself thinking that I was from Venus and he was from Mars. He was a real asshole, but what should I have expected, rooming with a repo man? Since the lease was in his name, I paid my rent to him, and he paid the landlord, or so I thought. It turned out that he wasn't paying the landlord at all, and he hid the eviction notices and other paperwork that he received from me while pocketing the rent that I paid him. When we were finally evicted, my girlfriend took pity on me and let me move in with her. She had a lovely 1-bedroom where I spent many nights before, but not every night in a row with her. At first, things were completely blissful. She was a bit of a clean freak, very neat and tidy, and I was her polar opposite, an unkempt and sloppy artist, but we had a great time together in bed, or just hanging out in the apartment. But then she started to tire of her new artist roommate. "Greg, I wish you would put things back where you found them." My response to myself, "I do put them back, just not immediately." "Greg, when you eat something, don't put the dirty dishes in the sink." My response to myself, "I do wash them, just not immediately." "Greg, put your dirty laundry in the bag. I don't mind taking it to the wash and fold." My response to myself, "I do put my laundry in the bag, just not immediately." "Jesus, Greg, can you just behave in my place like a civilized human being?" My response to myself, "I am civilized, but I'm also laid back, not an obsessive compulsive control freak like you." Then she told me I had to find a new place ASAP. "Greg, are you actively looking for a new place? Greg, how many different apartments did you look at today?" In response, I had some business-sized cards printed up offering a $1,000 reward to anybody who could help me find a cheap 1-bedroom apartment. I headed out that very morning to distribute my cards to the building supers who might be sweeping or hosing the sidewalks in front of their buildings. The cards were passed out all over the East Village. I also tucked them next to buzzer panels in many buildings. Finishing up late that morning, I was walking up 2nd Avenue in the East Village when I passed a bar that had heavy metal music blasting from inside. The outside of the bar was painted black, and I didn't notice the name above the front door before I opened it to pass out another one of my cards. Inside it was very dark, and under a spotlight at a table in the middle of the room sat a scruffy, tattooed, long-haired, middle-aged man counting money. A lot of money, stacked in piles on the table. I have no idea why I continued on my mission to hand out my cards in this unlikely and possibly dangerous situation, but I did. I knocked loudly on the door frame, no response. The music was too loud for him to hear me, so I took a step into the room and screamed, "Excuse me!" which abruptly brought the man out of his concentration on the count, and in a single move, he spun around backwards, reaching across the bar behind him, producing a sawed-off shotgun. He also turned off the music, so now it was deathly quiet as he pointed the shotgun at my head, quiet as a tomb. In a husky voice, he growled at me, "What the fuck?" I froze with fear. Then I said in a weak voice, "I was just passing out my cards offering a reward for a cheap 1-bedroom apartment." Then I smiled tentatively at the theater of the absurd quality of this whole interaction and asked, "Would you know of one?" He was at a loss for how to react, but then had a change of heart, lowered the shotgun, and smiled himself, saying, No, I don't. Just get the fuck out of here. As I walked out the door, I called back over my shoulder. The next time you're counting money, you might consider locking the door. Copyright 2025 by Gregg LeFevre. All rights reserved. If you enjoyed this week's episode, let us know. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Compulsive Storyteller, and we'd love to hear from you. This podcast is independently produced, so we really appreciate all your help and support. Share the show with your friends, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and please leave a review. You can also check out our website, thecompulsivestoryteller.com, for more information. Thanks for listening, and if you didn't like this one, the next one will be another story. The Compulsive Storyteller is now co-produced by Gregg LeFevre and Fadia Montserrat, who's also arranged the music and created the special effects. Emily Ramon does design, research, editing, and marketing. Peter Kokoma has made our theme music and for many seasons co-produced the show with me. All characters and events portrayed in this podcast are based on my truth, with some names and facts changed for privacy. The conversations and dialogues are based on my best memory, but are not word-for-word recreations.